On a hill far away stood an old rugged cross, the emblem of suffering and shame. How I love that old cross, where the dearest and best for a world of lost sinners was slain. So I'll cherish the old rugged cross till my trophies at last I lay down. I will cling to the old rugged cross and exchange it someday for a crown. Oh, that old rugged cross, so despised by the world, has a wondrous attraction for me. For the dear Lamb of God left His glory above to bear it to dark Calvary. So I'll cherish the old rugged cross till my trophies at last I lay down. I will cling to the old rugged cross and exchange it someday for a crown. Then He'll call me someday to my home far away, where His glory forever I'll share. So I'll cherish the old rugged cross till my trophies at last I lay down. I will cling to the old rugged cross and exchange it someday for a crown. I will cling to the old rugged cross and exchange it someday for a crown.
This is my body, broken for you, bringing you wholeness, making you free. Take it and eat it, and when you do it in love for me. will know you're very close to me. Filled with my spirit, how you will grow. You are my branches, I am the tree. If you are faithful, others will know you are alive in me. Love one another, I have loved you, and I have shown you how to be free. Serve one another, and when you do it in love for me.
兄弟姊妹平安，感谢主今仔早起，互咱机会当三甲来敬拜，还是来听伊话。这是咱早起，咱有一个你简单的一个白饼。让我读一段圣经节，记载是伫马太福音26章26节甲27节。因食的时阵，耶稣摕起饼来，祝福就擘开，送互门徒讲：恁摕到这个食。这是我的身体，我摕起杯来熟写了，送互因，讲恁拢啉这个，因为这个是我立约的血，为侪人流出来，互罪得到赦免。请咱下头一祈祷，主实在感谢你，你实在何等的听了阮。今仔日若毋是你伫十字架顶完成了救赎，阮实在一个灭亡。通死刑的人，感谢你，因着你听阮的缘故，让我今仔早起，阮搁再来思念，这款的听伫阮的心顶。实在阮无啥物通夸口，做恁望我大恩典，实在无比这个听搁较大，比这牺牲搁较深。通今仔日阮做何等样的人，阮感谢你，让今仔早起，互阮通来三甲纪念你，让阮要高举你名，阮要赞美你名，阮要完全荣耀你名。但愿你家己祝福这个饼这杯，互阮啉食，通做荣耀你家己名。感谢主，奉主耶稣的名，阿门。这时兄弟姊妹，咱三甲来摕这个饼，代表主的身体，我为咱拍开。这个杯代表主的血，为侪人流血赦免，所以得到赦免。请下头一祈祷，父神，阮感谢你，伫创世以前，伫听见基督耶稣来，你已经竞选了阮。实在阮无比人较好，比人较下，实在是你竞选了阮。你真摆竞选阮，永远竞选了阮。阮感谢你，虽然阮太微小、太软弱，但是感谢你的恩典、主爱不断常常得到了阮。让今仔早起，阮纪念你，让阮要将阮的心放着了你，将敬拜赞美做祭完全献互你。让阮这礼拜要来，让阮你继续保守的心怀意念，帮助阮、吸引阮，互阮一直心放着你。阮的脚一直快跑来跟地你，阮敬拜感谢你，阮将一切荣耀归乎你，奉主耶稣的名，阿门。
兄弟姊妹平安，
Peace, brothers and sisters.
咱繼續訴上真實得勝者這個系列嘅信息。
We'll resume with our series, Real Life Overcomers.
今日咱訴上嘅人叫做以利沙。
Today we'll talk about Elisha.
我嘅題目是平凡中間無平凡嘅人。
My topic is an extraordinary man among the ordinary.
今日咧所想嘅人是以利沙。
Today we'll talk about Elisha.
以利沙及以利亞唔是老爸囝嘅關係，
Now, Elijah and Elisha are not father and son,
唔是兄弟嘅關係。
nor are they brothers.
雖然兩個名真真接近，
Although their names are quite similar,
以利亞及以利沙是先師及學生嘅關係。
Elijah and Elisha are teacher and disciple.
以利亞是先師，
Elijah is a teacher,
以利沙是學生。
Elisha is the disciple.
當上帝復興了以利亞以
Now,
後，
when God restored Elijah,
將晒使命給伊，
he gave him 3 missions.
其中一個使命
One of these missions
被高立以利沙最嘅接棒人。
was to make Elisha his successor.
頂禮拜，
Last Sunday,
咱講以利亞時陣，
when we discussed Elijah,
咱嘅題目是以色列嘅戰車馬兵。
the topic was the chariots and the horsemen of Israel.
以利亞實在是以色列嘅戰車馬兵，
Elijah was truly Israel's horseman and
這是
chariot.
以利沙講嘅啊。
This is what Elisha said.
啲列王記下2章12節，
In 2 Kings 2:12,
以大聲講：我係爸啊，我係爸啊！以色列嘅戰車馬兵啊！
Elisha saw this and cried out, my father, the chariots and horsemen of Israel.
這是以利亞一生嘅寫照，
This is the picture of Elijah's life.
一生都要結束嘅時陣，
At the end of his life,
何人稱罪以色列嘅戰車馬兵？
he was called Israel's chariots and horsemen.
但當我研究聖經嘅時陣，
Well, upon my study,
我現象真奇妙嘅代志。
I discovered something amazing.
當以利沙都要離開世界嘅時陣，
When Elisha was about to die,
人嘅是叫以利沙是以色列嘅戰車馬兵。
people also called Elisha as the chariots and the horsemen of
你
Israel.
看《聖經》第13章14節。
Let's look at 2 Kings 13:14.
以利沙得着的確是嘅破壁，以色列王約亞斯嚟看伊，拍伫你嘅面，喊着講：我係爸啊，我係爸啊！以色列嘅戰車馬兵啊！
Now Elisha was suffering from the illness from which he died. Jehoash, king of Israel, went down to see him and wept over him. My father, he cried, the chariots and horsemen of Israel.
以利亞是以色列嘅戰車馬兵，
Elijah was the chariots and horsemen.
以利沙也是以色列嘅戰車馬兵。
Elisha is also Israel's chariots and horsemen.
這是就叫做 discipleship，life
This is really discipleship.
on life discipleship，like
This is life and life discipleship,
father like son，
like father and son.
兩個都是上帝嘅戰車馬兵。
Both were chariots and horsemen of Israel.
但係這兩個人有什麼無相呢？
But what's the difference between the both of them?
以利亞頭一擺出現喺聖經嘅時陣。
The first time Elijah appeared in the Bible,
以及傾亞宣佈一項大事，
he proclaimed against King Ahab.
我這鬼啲人無要祈禱，
He said, if I don't pray,
這鬼啲無要落雨。
there will be no rain in the next few
結果
years.
3年6個嘅無落雨，
And in the next 3.5 years, there was no rain.
全隊和旱災。
There was a drought in the whole land.
以利亞實在是個了不起嘅人 ，extraordinary man。
Elijah was truly a remarkable man.
但是以利沙唔是安尼，
But Elisha was not like this.
伊真普通，
Elisha was quite
伊個
ordinary.
真真普通嘅人。
He was a very ordinary man.
當以利亞呼召伊嘅時陣，
When Elijah called Elisha,
伊哋全隊作詩啦。
he was plowing the fields.
但是以利沙一生有真無平凡嘅工作。
But Elisha had an extraordinary job.
所以我呢個對白是平凡中間無平凡嘅人。
So my topic is an extraordinary man among the ordinary.
教會，
Church.
我唔知喺呢度中間有攞最無平凡嘅人，
I don't know how many extraordinary men are there in this church.
我相信的確有啦，
I believe there are some,
但是唔是真多，
but not many.
因為大部分嘅人，
Because majority
親像你親像我，
are like you and me.
都是真正普通嘅人。
We are like ordinary people.
但是呢，有通對以利沙學習一項代志，
But we can learn one thing from Elisha.
做一個平凡中間無平凡嘅人。
That we can become extraordinary from the ordinary.
咱哋以利亞先就學習3項代志，
And we can learn 3 things from his life
就做一個無平凡嘅人。
so that we can become an extraordinary man.
Number one，
The first thing,
用堅決嘅心志嚟回應上帝呼召。
to have a resolve to respond to God's call.
Number two，
Number 2,
用謙卑嘅態度以利亞嚟學習。
to humbly learn from Elijah.
Number three，以認真嘅態度行一條屬靈嘅路。
Number 3, to steadfastly walk this spiritual journey.
第一，以堅決嘅心志嚟回應上帝呼召。
First, resolve to respond to God's call.
上帝以利亞晒使命，
God gave Elijah 3 missions.
其中一個使命被高列以利沙最嘅接棒人。
And one of these missions was to call Elisha as his successor.
以利沙蒙掉嘅故事記載喺列王紀上19章19到21節。
Now, the story of Elisha's calling can be found in 1 Kings 19:19 to 21.
咱請愛使用英文嚟讀。
So I'll read it for you. So Elijah went from there and found Elisha, son of Shaphat. He was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen, and he himself was driving the 12th pair. Elijah went up to him and threw his cloak around him. Elisha then left his oxen and ran after Elijah. Let me kiss my father and mother goodbye, he said, and then I will come with you. Go back, Elijah replied. What have I done to you? So Elisha left him and went back. He took his yoke of oxen and slaughtered them. He burned the plowing equipment to cook the meat and gave it to the people, and they ate. Then he set out to follow Elijah and became his servant.
這三節嘅經文，
In these 3 verses,
咱注意兩方面嘅代志。
we see 2 things.
上帝呼召以利沙，及以利沙則回應上帝呼召。
We see God's calling of Elisha and Elisha's response.
頭先，咱嚟講上帝呼召以利沙，
Let's look at the Lord's calling of Elisha.
即係上帝主動呼召以利沙出嚟侍奉伊。
We see that God initiated the call for Elisha.
每一個屬上帝嘅人都是侍奉上帝嘅人，
Every believer is a minister.
所以英文叫做 Every believer is a minister。咱應該侍奉上帝，
We should all serve the Lord.
但是侍奉上帝，大家人嘅崗位都無相。
But everybody serves the Lord in different ways.
有人做律師，
Some people are lawyers.
有人做先知，
Some people are teachers.
有人做牧師。
Some people are pastors.
嗱，上帝若無呼召你全時間侍奉伊，
Now, if God has not called you to serve Him full time,
你無做全時間侍奉上帝。
you cannot serve Him full time.
相反呢，
Likewise,
嗱，上帝呼召你全時間侍奉伊，
if God wants you to serve Him full time,
你需要放落一切嘅工作嚟侍奉伊。
you must drop everything and serve Him.
所以唔是你愛無愛，
So it's not about your preference.
是上帝要愛，愛一是無愛。
It's about what God wants.
當上帝呼召以利沙嘅時陣，
Now, when the Lord called Elisha,
以利沙做什麼代志？
what was Elisha doing?
伊哋殘隊作息啊！
Elisha was plowing the field.
雖然講伊住喺地下做工，
The Bible says he was just working there,
而且非常溫勤嘅做工。
and he was working very hard.
聖經講，
This is the Bible tells us.
以利亞頭前有12堆嘅牛啊，
The Bible says that Elisha had 12 yoke of oxen.
24隻牛啊，
He had 24 oxen.
伊家本身負責路尾一隊，第12隊嘅牛。
He himself was supervising the 12th pair.
就咱知啊，以利沙家庭是一個真有錢嘅家庭。
So from this, we can see that Elisha's family is very wealthy.
伊馬將伊出來有24隻牛啊，
Imagine his family has 24 pairs of oxen, 24 oxen.
伊馬將伊出來有24頂車啦。
That's like having 24 cars in your house.
但是哦，以利沙唔是做一個大少爺、大少爺啊，
But Elisha was not a lazy rich young man.
就叫做中國人講富二代啊，但冇必做啊。
So in the Chinese, there's a saying that the second generation of a rich family does not do anything.
伊唔是安尼啊，
He's not like that.
伊本身去作息啦，
He himself is supervising
伊
and
去
working.
殘隊作息啦，
He is plowing the fields.
伊真骨力去做工啊。
He is very diligent.
互咱知影一個也重要嘅代志，
Makes us realize one thing.
上帝所用嘅人，上帝呼召嘅人，
God will not use and call God will use and call a hardworking person.
一個溫勤嘅人，一個有貢獻嘅人，
God will use someone who is diligent and someone who does his work.
上帝無必用變大人去作息。
God will not use a lazy person.
所以你講當上帝呼召彼得及安德烈嘅時陣，
So we can see this when the Lord Jesus called Peter and Andrew.
伊兩個人喺海裡面掠魚啊。
Both of them were fishing in the sea.
當上帝呼召約翰及雅各嘅時陣，
And when Jesus called John and James,
伊哋船裡面去免即個補即個網啊。
they were on the boat mending their nets.
當上帝呼召利未就是馬太嘅時陣，
And when God called Matthew,
伊都喺啲即個水管裡面燒瀉啊。
Matthew was working in his tax collector's booth.
大家人去做作息嘅啊，
Everybody was working.
係你知咩？
Brothers and
你若
sisters,
愛上帝要用你，
if you want God to use you,
唔是等將來啊，
don't wait for the future.
是現在。
You must serve Him now.
好做你手嚟嘅工作，
You must work well now.
人哋雖然大頂面忠心，
Because those who are faithful with little,
上帝將大大志俾交予伊。
God can entrust him with much.
上帝呼召以利沙，
God called Elijah.
你看以利沙就回應上帝。
So let's see how Elisha responded.
當以利亞將這個沙放喺以利沙嘅身上嘅時陣，
Now when Elijah put his cloak on Elisha,
以利沙知影咯，
Elisha knew
哎呀，原來上帝俾呼召伊咯。
that God was calling him.
伊做咗兩項代志，
So he did two things.
第一，
The first one,
伊倒去甲伊的父母杀死。
the first thing he did was to say farewell to his parents.
第二，
The second thing,
伊用第12堆的將第12堆的牛囊中提了，
that he killed his 12th pair of oxen.
佮用這個耕作嘅器皿再炒燒煮這個麥，
And he used his plowing equipment as firewood for the sacrifice.
及撒給人食，
And he ate with everyone.
食了咧
After they ate,
就跟着以利亞行咯。
after that, he followed Elijah.
這兩樣代志，互人明白一個也重要嘅代志。
These two things make us understand something.
以利沙立定心志要跟着以利亞，無為家己留一條後路，
That Elisha was determined to follow Elijah, that he didn't leave a way out for himself.
這個真重要。
This is very important.
這叫做 determination。
This is called determination.
跟着上帝的人都需要一個 the heart of determination。
Those who want to follow and serve God must have a heart of determination.
我真歹勢，互你知影一項代志。
I'm very embarrassed to tell you
現今這個世界，
that in this world,
40%嘅傳道人，
around 40% of pastors
在侍奉嘅工作頂面半途而廢，
have left the ministry halfway.
未 finish well 啊。
They didn't finish well.
CBCB 頂擺這個主任牧師叫做吳瑞祥牧師，
CBCB's previous senior pastor, Ezra Nang,
伊頂擺是 FEBC 電台作息，
he used to work at FEBC station.
後來去香港教會侍奉，
Later, he served in a church in Hong Kong.
後尾移民去加拿大，
And later, he worked in Canada.
侍奉到退休。
He worked until he retired.
伊是一生侍奉上帝嘅人。
He was a servant who served God his whole life.
有一年我去加拿大，
One year, I went to Canada.
我頭間去探伊，
I deliberately visited him.
我甲講一生侍奉到退休嘅人是拉少啦，
I tell you that there's not many people who serve God their whole lives.
叫上帝幫襯咱。
May God help us.
你若要侍奉上帝，
If you want to serve God,
唔通為家己留少幾最後路啦。
don't leave yourselves an escape route.
因為當你到面對嘅時陣，
Because when you meet an
你
obstacle,
即刻離開啊！
you will definitely leave.
因為也最所在通去啊。
Because there's definitely so many ways that you can leave.
32年前，
32 years ago,
當我決定全時間侍奉上帝嘅時陣，
when I decided to follow God,
我冇為家己留任何嘅後路，
I did not leave myself any way out.
我嚟菲律賓，
I went to the Philippines,
我根本唔知我頭前發生什麼大事，
and I don't even know what the future holds for me.
但是我相信
But I believe
我係上帝，
that my God,
伊是我嘅主，
He is my Lord,
伊要引出我一生。
and He will take care of my life.
咱就做以利沙，
Now, when we look at Elisha,
做一個平凡中間無平凡嘅人，
to become like him, to be an extraordinary person among
頭
the
前大
ordinary,
事，
the first thing we must
你
do
需要用一個真責決定嘅心智嚟跟地嚟回應上帝嘅呼召，
is we must respond to God's call with complete resolution, no matter what the Lord calls us to do.
叫做幫襯咱。
May God help us.
我唔知喺上帝俾呼召你做什麼，
I don't know what God wants for you,
但是無論什麼，
but no matter what it
當你
is,
say yes to the Lord 嘅時陣，
when you say yes to the Lord,
咱就決定心智一生行呢條路。
we must be resolved to follow that path.
第二，
Number 2,
以謙卑嘅態度以利亞嚟學習。
Elisha humbly learned from Elijah.
嗱，聖經冇清楚記載，
Now, the Bible does not clearly tell us
以利沙跟地以利亞有偌久嘅
how
時
long
間，
Elisha followed Elijah,
但是我相信地就有10年嘅時間。
but I believe there must have been at least 10 years.
喺10年嘅裏面，
In those 10 years,
以利沙做什麼代志？
what did Elisha do for Elijah?
聖經只記載一項代志，
The Bible only records one thing.
什麼代志呢？
What is this?
你個列王記下第3章11節，
Let's see in 2 Kings 3:11.
以色列王一個僕人回答講：，即得有沙法的囝以利沙，就是從前服侍以利亞，原本是從前倒追的以利亞手中的。
It says here that an officer of the king of Israel answered, Elisha, son of Shaphat, is here. He used to pour water on the hands of Elijah.
喺過去10年，以利沙創一項代志，
In those 10 years, Elisha did one thing.
倒追的以利亞手嘅中間，
He poured water in the hands of Elijah.
這是什麼工作啊？
What work is this?
這是僕人嘅工作。
This is a servant's job.
以利沙跟地以利亞這10年嘅裏面，
In how Elisha served Elijah in these 10 years,
咱發現人嘅代志，咱需要學習。
we can learn two very important principles.
Number one，
The first one,
原來門徒訓練實在是生命影響生命嘅訓練。
that discipleship is a life and life training.
其實門徒訓練第一接近嘅解釋
Now, the best way to explain this
是叫做學徒訓練。
is apprenticeship.
你知影伫1960年代，
Did you know in the 1960s,
因為經濟真差嘅原因，
because economically it was not so good,
讀冊嘅人真少，
educated people were very few.
真侪人連小學都無通畢業，
A lot of people did not even finish elementary school.
所以伊要創啥？
So what will they do?
所以伊挑工去學一款嘅技術，
So they had to learn a craft.
伊就頭先去找一個師傅，一個 teacher，
They need to first find a master, a teacher,
用3年嘅時間
to use 3 years
嚟跟這個先生嚟學習，
to learn from that teacher.
真就學習去剪頭毛，
So this is cutting hair,
真就去修理車，
could be repairing cars,
還是修理 aircon，
or could be repairing air cons,
還是去學習煮食。
or could be cooking.
伊需要及這個師傅三級騎出一個
The student would live with a master
三級生活。
and live together.
其實到頭一年較想先師傅無教保項代志。
And usually in the first year, the master does not teach a student.
這個學生本來就是實在做伊嘅僕人
The student would just be a servant for 1 year.
，after 1 year，
And after 1 year,
這個先是講這個學生個人講袂歹，
if the master deems the student not bad
伊嘅品格、伊嘅 character 個真好，
and his character is not too bad
個會食苦，
and he can endure hardship
個會聽
and
喙，
he's obedient,
個就開始慢慢教伊。
then he will slowly teach him.
經過3年以後
And，after 3 years,
因為及先是三級食、三級生活，
because he has lived with a teacher,
你有一個較聰明嘅學生，
the clever apprentices
就將先生嘅技術當中了學曉咯。
would have learned all the skills from the master.
其實唔那是伊嘅技術，
But not just his skills,
連先是做講話做創代志生嘅啦。
but he would also learn how the teacher speaks and how the teacher lives.
因為3年生活做一個咧，
Because they have lived together for 3 years.
先是嘅生命已經影響到學生嘅生命。
The life of the teacher has now become the life of the student.
以利亞、以利沙就是安尼。
Now Elijah and Elisha is just like that.
當以利亞接靠人叫做 ascension 即個天頂嘅時陣，
Now when Elijah was taking up to heaven,
以利沙講以色列寄來嘅戰車馬兵啊。
Elisha called him the chariots and the horsemen of Israel.
當以利沙家己離開世界嘅時陣，
Now when Elisha was about to die,
人叫以利沙是講以色列嘅戰車馬兵啊。
people also called him the chariots and the horsemen of Israel.
先是是安尼，
The teacher is like that,
學生是安尼，
and the student is like him.
這叫做生命影響生命嘅訓練。
And this is life and life discipleship.
教會
Church.
門徒訓練是對家庭開始，
Discipleship starts at the home.
但是
However,
你唔通拿做家庭常常有叫做 family worship，
don't think just because you have family worship
叫你囡仔讀聖經念聖經，
and you ask your children to read and recite the
伊
Bible
就查做主嘅門徒。
that they will become the Lord's disciple.
我當然無反對家庭嘅聚會，
Although I'm not opposed to family worship,
我當然無反對囡仔念聖經，
I'm not opposed to children reading the Bible,
但係只是停喺這個所在。
but if we end it there,
你只不過訓練一關法利賽人嘅宗教元素。
you'll be training Pharisees or legalistic people.
第一重要
The most important
是
thing
你嘅生命，
is your life.
你嘅生命若唔是主嘅門徒，
If your life is not of a disciple,
你無法訓練你嘅家裡做主嘅門徒。
then you cannot help your family to become disciples.
這叫做生命影響生命嘅訓練。
Because this is life and life discipleship.
Number two，
Number 2,
關喺主所用嘅人，最好大聲學習，好主穩扛起來。
that the man God uses must learn to live the hidden life first.
啲聖經對舊約到新約，
So from the Old Testament to the New Testament,
咱看到一個真真清楚嘅一項代志。
we see a very clear truth.
上帝用這個人以前，
When God uses a man,
上帝常常大聲將這個人扛起來。
he will first hide the man.
這段扛嘅時間真正重要。
And this period of hiding is very important.
只有一款實在關於謙卑的主嘅頭前嘅人，
And only those who are very humble can do this.
實在有通互上帝扛起來，
Because humble people are willing to be hidden by the Lord.
將來有通互上帝所用。
And then they can be used by the Lord in the future.
喺舊約裡面，
In the Old Testament,
咱講到 Joseph，
we see Joseph.
上帝要用 Joseph 就係做以色列嘅救主，
God wanted to use Joseph as a savior of Israel.
但係上帝大聲將 Joseph 扛起來，
But God first hid Joseph.
將佢放喺埃及波頭嘅家庭嘅裡面，
He first worked in the house of Potiphar.
將佢放喺埃及嘅 prison 嘅裡面，
Then he stayed in prison.
有13年嘅時間
He。stayed in prison for 13 years.
後來變做 the prime minister of the Egypt。
Then he became the prime minister of Egypt.
另外一個人是 David，
Another one is David.
伊雖然就好 Samuel 定做王，
When he was young, he was ordained by Samuel to be
但你
king.
知影無？
But however,
大衛一生地咗20年嘅時間，
David waited for 20 years.
喺曠野走嚟走去，
In those 20 years, he was running in the
因為
wilderness
掃羅要接伊啊！
because Saul was pursuing him.
喺20年嘅曠野裏面，
In 20 years of his life, he
是
was in the
上帝
wilderness.
將大衛坑嘅時陣。
God was hiding David for 20 years
喺新約，
in the wilderness.
你是 New Testament，
In the New Testament,
那個就保羅，
we see Paul.
保羅是新約第一偉大嘅使徒，
Paul is the greatest apostle in the New Testament.
要學問，
He was educated,
要口仔
he，was eloquent,
要靈力，
and he was capable.
要勇敢
And
勇氣。
he had courage.
但係當上帝更叫了以後，
But after the Lord enlightened him,
上帝將保羅放喺亞納嘅曠野裏面3年嘅時間，
God placed him in the wilderness of Arabia for 3 years.
上帝本身訓練佢，
God himself was training him.
後來將掃羅多多去大數他述這個所在，
Later on, he brought Paul to Tarsus.
因為他述是掃羅嘅家鄉啊。
Tarsus is Paul's hometown.
你就係保羅哋這個他述有地少有10年嘅時間，
Now, Paul stayed in Tarsus for at least 10 years,
完全無人不義。
and nobody knew who he was.
若唔是巴拿巴靠大數將佢多出嚟，
If not for Barnabas, who called Paul out of Tarsus,
掃羅還是保羅這個真正普通嘅人嚟啲啊，
Paul will just be a very ordinary person.
教會
Church,
上帝要用咱以前，但就將咱坑起嚟。
before the Lord will use us, he will first hide us.
所以你唔當特別少為上帝創什麼大大事。
So don't always look for major roles.
咱中國人有一個也出名嘅傳道人叫做 Stephen Tong，
So we have a very famous man called Stephen Tong.
也最人追傳道愛追 Stephen Tong，
Everybody wants to be like Stephen Tong.
也最人愛追 Billy Graham。
Everybody wants to be like Billy Graham.
No，咱學習謙卑喺主嘅裏面，坑喺主嘅裏面。
We must first be humble and be hidden by the Lord.
咱面對現在真濟咱嘅財政嘅裏面，這個 quarantine，
Okay, sorry. In this quarantine,
咱逐個人佇厝內無通去別個所在，
because we're quarantined, we're stuck at home.
咱唔通接多一段嘅時間。
Let's not waste this period of time.
這段時間是上到咱坑佇厝內嘅時陣，
God is using this time to hide us.
好好對求明白你嘅上帝，
So you must take this time to get to know the Lord better.
好好讀聖經明白真理。
Use this time to read the Bible better.
上帝佇這陣可能是備辦咱，
Because maybe God is using this time to prepare us.
但是咱需要謙卑嚟學習。
So we must be humble and to grow as well.
你知也有種嘅人哦，
So there's some types of people
真驚人無肯定去 affirm 伊，
that they're afraid of not being affirmed.
從了小可代志，愛互人 confirm，愛互人學咯。
They do a little thing and they want to be praised about it.
當然啦，咱應該學咯，咱應該學咯。
Of course, we should praise those who deserve praise.
這是羅馬書13章嘅教導。
This is found in Romans chapter 13.
但是嗱，有人無學咯咱嘅，
But what if people don't praise us?
無要緊啊。
And that's fine.
莫講是上帝學人坑嘅時陣，
Because maybe this is our period of hiddenness.
上帝知影你做了什麼，比人知影更加重要。
Because what the Lord knows that what you have done is far more important than the praises of men.
有一個，這是外國，有一個外國一個牧師，
Now there's a foreign pastor.
一個教會，即真大間嘅教
He
會。
pastors a very large church.
但係心頭邊這個牧師真誇張會有對嘅 affirm。
But he cares very heavily on the praises of his people.
聽講每一擺伊去大頂講道以前，
It is said that before he preaches in the pulpit,
伊徛喺個所在，
when he stands where he
伊無要
is,
講，伊無要講話吧？
he will not say a word.
下界會有就講三擺一句話。
His congregation must first say 3 things.
You are the best, you are the best, and you are the best。
They must say, "You are the best" 3 times.
然後咧，伊家開始嚟講道，
Then he will begin to preach.
是唔是小家誇張人嘅肯定呢？
I think he's putting too much weight on the affirmations of men.
教會。
Church.
以利沙10年親像一日做以利亞嘅僕人，
Elisha was Elijah's servant for 10 years.
伊真正謙卑，這個現實嚟學習。
He was very humble and he learned from his master.
結果你以利沙發現這樣代志，
And he discovered something in Elijah.
伊講以利亞生命當中有上帝靈在裡
He
面，
said he discovered that Elijah had the Spirit of God in him.
所以當以利亞去 ascension 嘅時陣，
So when Elijah was taken up into heaven,
以利沙叫這樣代志，
Elisha said one
伊
thing.
講叫感動你嘅靈，能被感動我，
He requested that he be given twice a portion of Spirit upon him.
這是謙卑嘅觀察嘅結果。
So this is being humble and being open to learn.
求主幫助咱，
May God help us.
好謙卑，你嘅先知，你嘅以利亞嚟學習。
Be humble and learn from your Elijah.
第三，
Third point,
以認真嘅態度行一條屬靈嘅路。
having a steadfast attitude and walking the spiritual journey.
列王記下第2章，
If we look at 2 Kings,
是記載以利亞被接去天頂嘅故事。
it's a story where Elijah is taken up to heaven.
但係發現，
But he realized
這個已經唔是個秘密，
that this is not a secret event
因為當時差不多所有嘅先知門徒都知啊。
because the other prophets knew about it.
因為先知門徒就是現在嘅神學生啦。
Because the other prophets today are like seminary students today.
伊對以利沙講：
They told Elisha,
耶和華今日你要接你嘅師傅去天頂，你知啊是唔知啊？
he said, do you know that the Lord is about to take your master from you today?
以利沙講：我知啊，
Elisha said, I know.
你唔免講話。
Be quiet.
以利沙軍隊以利亞一個所在到一個所在。
Now Elisha followed Elijah from place to place.
你若看聖經，
If you look at the Bible,
對吉甲到伯特利，
he went from Gilgal to Bethel,
對伯特利到耶利哥，
from Bethel to Jericho,
對耶利哥到約旦河。
from Jericho to the Jordan River.
以利沙一步一步跟住以利亞，
Elisha followed Elijah step by step.
真奇怪。
But what's very strange,
以利亞人們一擺叫以利沙倒去。
in every step Elijah told Elisha to go back home.
但是以利沙冇俾，伊講我一步一步要帶你，冇俾離開你。
But Elisha said, no, I will not leave you. I will keep on following you.
其實即度有一個真重嘅屬靈功課喺裏
Now,
面。
there's a very important spiritual truth here.
以利沙是個認真跟住以利亞嘅人，
Elisha was very dedicated and committed to walk this spiritual path.
用真認真嘅態度嚟行一條屬靈嘅路。
He had this attitude of steadfastness to follow him.
即度有4個 station，
And that there were 4 stations here.
吉甲、伯特利、耶利哥、約旦河。
The 4 stations were Gilgal, Bethel, Jericho, and the Jordan River.
這4個 station 就代表行一條屬靈嘅路4款嘅攔阻。
And these 4 stations represented 4 obstacles.
所以以利亞叫以利沙倒去。
So Elijah kept telling Elisha to go back home.
這是一個呢叫做考驗，一個呢 testing。
But this was actually a test.
你需要廿幾這4個 testing，
So you have to overcome these 4 tests
個有通接以利亞嘅工作。
before Elisha could take over Elijah.
咱嚟看這4款嘅 testing。
So let's look at these 4 tests.
頭一個
The first one,
吉甲，
in Gilgal.
嗱吉甲嘅意思是滾啊，
Now Gilgal means to roll.
是什麼意思呢？
What does this mean?
因為當約書亞當呢以色列人過了約旦河以後，
Now when Joshua led the Israelites across the Jordan River,
伊到一個所在，
they came to a place.
約書亞喺這個所在及所有的曠野出使猶太人行割禮circumcision。
So Joshua led the men from Israel who were born in the wilderness to be circumcised here in Gilgal.
當這個經過這個割禮以後，
And after this place,
上帝及約書亞講話。
God said to Joshua,
你看第5章第9節約書亞記，
let's look at Joshua 5:9.
伊講今日我將埃及嘅奸笑對你先照滾出去，因為安呢這個所在叫做吉甲直到今日。
So it says, today I have rolled away the reproach of Egypt from you. So the place has been called Gilgal to this day.
原來吉甲是代表咱嘅肉體嘅情慾離開咱。
So it turns out Gilgal means to get rid of the lust of the flesh.
教會，
Church,
咱要行一條屬靈嘅路，
to walk this spiritual journey,
對付肉體永遠是頭一步。
to get rid of the lust of the flesh is a first step.
這個肉體真艱苦對付，
And this is a very difficult task.
咱無再靠家己規律來對付這個肉體，
We cannot rely on our own strength to get rid of the lust of the
咱
flesh.
是要到去十字架裏面，
We must return to the cross.
將肉體及肉體嘅情慾釘在十字架裏面。
We must also crucify the flesh and its desires upon that cross.
所以教會。
So church,
每一擺當你受肉體引誘嘅時陣，
every time your flesh is tempted
愛去犯罪嘅時陣，
and you want to sin,
你唔是靠你家己，
don't rely on yourself.
你需要受我到去十字架裏面。
You must always remember and go back to the cross.
Think about God's love，
Think about God's love.
上帝救恩，
Think about His salvation.
主要所為你釘在十字架裏面。
Think about the sacrifice of Jesus upon that
現在
cross.
活着不再是我，乃是基督，
Because now it's no longer you who lives, but it is Christ who lives.
唔是靠你家己，
Do not rely on yourself.
也加這個肉體，
Do not rely on yourself to overcome this
是靠
temptation,
上帝救恩。
but rely on God's salvation.
這是吉甲。
And this is Gilgal.
即係頭一個 station。
This is the first station.
第二個 station 呢
The second station is
是北特利，
it's in Bethel.
北特利是上帝嘅殿。
Bethel means the temple of God.
當咱嘅肉體嘅情慾離開咱以後，
Now, when we get rid of the flesh,
咱嚟到北特利這個所在
we，will arrive at Bethel.
咱開始嘅上帝家庭嘅生活。
We must now live in God's family.
所以基督徒
So, Christians,
千萬唔通做一個獨行俠，
do not live as lone rangers.
咱需要嘅團體性嘅生活。
We must live in a community.
Yes，但你嘅團體嘅生活的確都係真多問題，
Yes, there's a lot of problems within the community
因為人及人殺級產生真多嘅叫做 conflict。
because when people live together, there are conflicts.
聖經都是咁樣講，
The Bible also says
你
this.
講鐵及鐵三磨，
In Proverbs, it says, iron sharpens iron.
咱人及人中間就做鐵及鐵磨來磨去。
So, it's like men, like iron, sharpening each other.
但是屬靈嘅生命的確需要經過及人三磨。
But our spiritual lives must also experience that type of friction.
你知啊，現在也最善學義，
You see, many seminaries now today,
只是教學生一個嘅善學嘅知識及一個嘅技術，
they would impart knowledge and skills to these students,
忽略了生命嘅操練。
but they would ignore the training on life.
難怪真侪畢業嘅善學生喺教會常常產生問題。
And there's a lot of problems that arises now in the workplace after graduation.
美國教會有一個 report，
Now, there's a report from an American church.
佢講傳道人平均喺教會裏面3年就離開教會。
They would report that after 3 years, these pastors would leave the ministry.
為什麼離開？
Why would they leave?
及人有 conflict，
They would have conflict with one another.
有知識但是冇生命。
They have knowledge, but they have no life.
教會，
Church.
咱需要嘅教會嘅生活，
When we live here in the community of the church,
頭章
the
學
first
習
thing,
捨己。
we must learn how to deny ourselves.
你若冇捨己嘅生命，
If we don't deny ourselves,
只顧家己，無顧別
and
人，
we only care about ourselves and not care about others,
咱永遠唔明白什麼是教會嘅生活。
we will not understand what it is to live in the community of God.
北特利是第二個 station，
Bethel is the second station.
第三 station
The third station is
耶利哥。
Jericho.
嗱，耶利哥是猶太人你去迦南地面對頭一個第一大實體，
Now, Jericho was the first large city when the Israelites entered Canaan.
也是猶太人頭一個戰爭。
And it's also the first battle that they fought.
猶太人若無通拍到這個耶利哥，
If they would not have defeated Jericho,
伊就無法得到迦南地。
they wouldn't have entered the promised land.
但是讀聖經嘅人都知啊，
But those who read the Bible know,
當這個戰爭未開始以前，
before this battle even begun,
耶和華軍隊嘅元首出現，
that the commander of the Lord, that Joshua,
伊出現 appear，
he appeared.
伊要出嚟當咧猶太人拍這個戰爭。
He would lead Israel into this battle.
但係這個軍隊元首嘅看法真奇妙，
But his strategy was a bit amazing.
伊叫猶太人特日設這個寫一擺，
He commanded Israel to march around the city.
第7日設7擺，
And he would march around the city 7 times in the
所以
7th day.
隆中設了耶利哥13擺。
So they have marched around the city for 13 times.
這是什麼樣嘅辦法啊？
What kind of strategy is this?
對人嚟看，這個是真foolish戇嘅辦法。
In man's eyes, this is a foolish strategy.
但係猶太人信服耶和華軍隊嘅元首，
But the Israelites obeyed the commander of the Lord.
結果13擺以後，
And after they marched 13
喝
times
一下，
and they shouted,
規城倒落去。
the entire city of Jericho fell.
可能這係一個也重要嘅 principle，
So this revealed a very important principle.
這條屬靈嘅路，
This spiritual journey,
咱需要信服。
we must always obey.
請你記得，信服是這條屬靈嘅路未最減嘅品格。
Please remember that obedience is a character trait that cannot be absent from this spiritual journey.
咱做一個 obedient 嘅信服嘅人。
We must become obedient people.
第四，約旦河，
Number 4, Jordan River.
猶太人出埃及到迦南地需要經過兩個河，
Now, when Israel left Egypt, they had to cross 2 rivers.
頭一是 Red Sea，
The first is the Red Sea.
第二是約旦河。
The second is Jordan River.
嗱，嘅紅海是代表正式離開了埃及，
Now, crossing the Red Sea represented that they have left Egypt.
埃及是代表世界，
Now, Egypt symbolized the world.
所以猶太人經過紅海是代表受浸歸入基督嘅裏面，
So, Israel crossing the Red Sea is being baptized into Christ.
這是代表得救。
So, this symbolizes salvation.
但係猶太人過了約旦河呢，
Now, how about when Israel was crossing the Jordan
就
River?
正式入去 Promised Land。
That means that they were already entering the promised
但是
land.
Promised Land 頭前有31個王聽候着伊，
But in the promised land, there were 31 kings that were fighting against them.
所以想拍到這31個王得到應允嘅隊。
So they had to first defeat these 31 kings.
所以約旦河是代表得勝，
So crossing the Jordan River signified victory.
紅海是代表得救，
Red Sea symbolizes salvation.
約旦河是代表得勝。
And Jordan represented victory.
即係得勝呢？
So how can we be
咱
victorious?
需要及主等死等活，這是過約旦河嘅意思。
So we must die and we must be raised to life, like with the Lord.
你看以利沙軍隊以利亞，
So you see, when Elisha was following Elijah
對吉吉嚟到伯大利，
from Gilgal to Bethel,
對伯大利嚟到耶利哥，
from Bethel to Jericho,
對耶利哥嚟到約旦河，
from Jericho to Jordan River,
然後將約旦河嘅水分開，
and they divided the Jordan River into two.
兩個人行經過約旦河，
And the two crossed the Jordan River.
這代表什麼呢？
What did it represent?
代表以利沙通過了4敗嘅考驗，
This represented that Elisha has already passed the 4 tests.
而正式就做以利亞嘅接棒人，
He has now succeeded in becoming Elijah's successor.
開始一生中間無平凡嘅工作。
So this already begun his extraordinary work.
後尾我講一樣代志，
Lastly, I want to say one thing.
以利沙嘅接棒人是誰啊？
Elisha, what was the name of Elisha's successor?
咱就呀，以利沙是接以利亞，
We know that Elisha succeeded Elijah.
但請問以利沙嘅successor是誰啊？
So can I ask, who was the successor of Elisha?
其實以利沙有一個門徒，
But Elisha did have a disciple.
叫做基哈西。
His name was Gehazi.
伊跟對以利沙一段真長嘅時間，
Gehazi followed Elisha for a very long time.
伊本來應該接以利沙嘅查做伊嘅接棒人，
He was supposed to be the successor of Elisha.
但是可惜，
But unfortunately,
因為貪錢嘅原因，
because he was greedy for
伊
money,
全身過失咗大毛風，
he became leprous.
伊無通查做以利沙嘅接棒人。
He could not become the successor of
這
Elisha.
是乜代志呢？
What was this situation?
就是亞蘭王嘅將軍乃縵嘅故事。
This is a story of the general of Aram, King Naaman.
伊貪愛乃縵嘅金銀，
Gehazi was greedy for the money of Naaman.
結果伊全身過失咗大毛風出嚟，
So his entire body was filled with leprosy.
伊無通查做以利沙嘅接棒人。
And he could not become the successor of Elisha.
教會啊，
Church,
有好嘅先師需要好嘅學生，
a good teacher must have a good student.
好嘅學生需要好嘅先師。
A good student must have a good teacher.
以利亞有好嘅學生以利沙，
Elijah had a good student,
但是
Elisha.
以利沙無好嘅學生。
But Elisha did not have a good student.
我問你一個問題：
Let me ask you one thing.
你是好嘅先師，還是好嘅學生？
Are you a good teacher or a good student?
我唔問你是好嘅先師，
Be a good teacher. If you're a good teacher,
將來訓練人就做好嘅學生，
if you're a good teacher, train up good students
一代傳一代出去，
so that one generation will build up another
這就是
generation.
門徒訓練嘅意思。
So this is discipleship.
CBCB is a disciple making church。
CBCB is a discipleship making church.
咱每一個人
Each of us
最好嘅先師，
will need to be a good teacher
訓練人最好嘅學生，
so that we can train more good students
繼續落去，
so that we can have
有
generation
人繼續
disciple
produce
generation
good disciple，
and we can produce more disciples.
叫上帝幫助咱
And。God help us.
咱三個額頭嚟祈禱，
Let's pray.
感謝上帝，君藉着以利沙伊嘅生命，看到伊就承接以利亞嘅工作，就最主你家己所用嘅人。但係特別這個信息互恁知啊，君喺就最上帝所用嘅人，需要經過無相關嘅考驗，叫做幫助君也加君嘅肉體，互君加一個捨己嘅生命，喺教會中間，甲人彼此嘅配搭，做一個侍奉上帝嘅人。但是特別君看到。有好嘅先師需要好嘅學生，有好學生需要好嘅先師。叫做幫助君教會有真最好嘅先師、好嘅學生，繼續就最主嘅門徒，一代一代訓練人就最主嘅門徒，來榮耀主嘅聖名，來完成上帝和教會嘅大使命。獻上我哋感恩，及我哋祈禱，奉告主耶穌基督嘅聖名。Amen。
Good morning. Thank you for worshiping with us today. We have some announcements for the week.
Good day, everyone.
We
We are the CGCQC Midlers class.
Come and join.
Our Sunday School online class
Using Google Meet.
Every Sunday at
10:45 to 12 p.m.
See you soon!
God bless!
CGCQC has Sunday School for all ages. Here is the list of meeting times. Please contact our teachers for access to their Zoom or Messenger calls. You are most welcome to attend any of these classes. Don't miss our Bible study next Friday night as Brother Paul shares with us Paul's testimony to the Jerusalem mob from Acts 22. We sometimes wrestle with our human nature against biases and prejudice. Join us next Lord's Day and learn from Brother Bertram Lim. How do we obey the command to love, especially those we consider unlovable? Our prayer meetings continue online. Please arrange with your care groups your virtual prayer time weekly. Let's offer our tithes as worship unto the Lord. Should you want to make an offering, online giving is now available. Here are our bank account details for your reference. You may also contact Sister Melita for more information. Let us continue to stay stronger together in faith by God's grace. God bless and stay safe.